starts with a what? Dot, starting point, right? Somewhere within that frame, you're going to put. Oh, you got it going. All right, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I'm wearing my mask too. I know I pulled it off every once in a while. All right. Every design starts with a starting point. Where you place things within that frame is where you start adding symmetry or asymmetry. Symmetry is a compositional state in which the arrangement of forms responds to a central axis of the frame. In other words, all right, can anybody tell me the definition of a static frame?
All sides are equal.
All four sides are equal, right? And we know a dynamic frame is what?
All sides are different for each
Sides are different, right? You know, you could even have a frame that's like that, right? All them sides are different, okay? But normally in print media, you're going to be dealing with either a horizontal or vertical dynamic frame. And if I place something within that frame in the dead center, I'm creating a dynamic, or I'm creating a kind of static placement or static symmetry within that, right? Okay? If you place something along those axes, right, that vertical and horizontal, it's inherently static. So no matter what your frame is, if you kind of, you know that's your vertical axis and your horizontal axis, and you kind of place things there, inherently that image is static. All right? You can change the volume, but still have a fairly static placement or static symmetry, right? We got 3 circles here, and we got a square there, and even though that's different, it kind of has the same symmetry, right? Balance, right? Okay, all right? And as we add elements, and as they're added, there's less static to the design, right? Okay? Because we start creating all these spatial relationships. Okay? So, I think that's common sense, right? The more things we add to it, the less static it is, the more chaotic it can be. Okay? And as the element becomes enlarged, and if it becomes too enlarged, it actually begins to dominate the frame. You got a question? Okay. All right. It begins to dominate the frame, and the static nature of the design is reduced, right? So we got these 4 big circles, but they've become so enlarged that they're actually starting to dominate the frame. Okay? All right, she's shooting a video of me, right? This wall's kind of dominating the frame, right? But as I get closer and closer and closer and closer, I am now dominating the frame of that video, am I not? Okay. All right. Once you add something to your frame, if you got a frame with nothing on it, it's inert. But once you start adding something to it, you activate it. All right. So here's this black frame. All right, and the only activity is it's solid black. Then I put some elements in it, and now I've activated that area. And then that leads to the question, how does placement of active areas within a frame affect the frame? Right? So let's look at this here. I've got this, I'm going to erase this red real quick. And I'm going to erase this blue. I've added 2 elements to this. I've kind of added this triangular rectangle that has a little bit, and then I've completely gone from edge to edge. All right? So basically now, I have two spaces, right? I've got this space and this space. Now, if I change the placement a little bit, right? And I don't have that element go all the way across the frame, I've left that open, right? Now, it still might be a little bit of a spatial relationship, but it's all there. Right? All right, and again, we place these two elements, one's overlapping the other, we're dealing with this space here.
Yeah, right. Hey.
Okay? And we're dealing with this space here, and we've activated or kept it inert. Okay? The degree of activity and spatial complexity grows as each new element is introduced to the design. Alright? So here's our static frame, right? These little squares, right? These are static frames, right? I place in a static position. Alright? I've moved that up here, so that adds a little bit more complexity to the design, a little less static. Once I add two elements to it, what did I say when two elements are added in the same frame? The competition is what? On for what? I'm sorry, what? Attention, right? The viewer's eye, right? Okay? Once you have two things, right, I am the sole focus of this video, right? Okay? We good? Got what? Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. I'm the sole activity. All right. You two come up here. Now they're competing for your attention, right? Okay? Now if I start doing this, I'm dominating your attention, right? Okay? All right? Am I going to ask y'all to do that? Would y'all do it? Y'all wouldn't do it? Y'all cowards. Go sit down. You're cowards. What cowards I have in here. Sometimes you got to dance like nobody's looking and sing like nobody's listening. Okay? All right. So, as we are adding complexity, right, whether it's the shape, whether it's the color, whether it's a whole bunch of different elements, you are competing in adding complexity to your design. All right? Now, I will tell you this. Most designs that work most effectively are very simple designs. Steven Spielberg, everybody seen his movies? Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds, E.T., okay? You've seen those, right? Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all right? There's a little thing, gimmick, they call it a Spielberg, all right? Where he does just a little gimmick to kind of catch your idea, and once that gimmick was used, it seems to get used a lot. How many of you have ever watched a horror movie and there's some kind of board or something, and when somebody walks up to it, there's a whole bunch of different missing people listed on the board? You ever seen that? That conveys that message real well, right? Oh my goodness, something strange is going on. There's a lot of missing people going on. Right? But he used that same trick in War of the Worlds. Y'all remember the river scene where the daughter and him are going down by the river and she starts screaming, right? And he runs up to the river and there's all these bodies floating down the river, right? Same gimmick, right? It's to convey that a bunch of people, something's happened to them.
Oh, very good.
Right?
Round.
Okay? Alright? The activity. Alright? Compositional contrast. Contrast applies to specific relationships such as light and dark, curve and angle, dynamic, static. If I was to ask you just why is that dynamic, what would you say? Why within this static frame is that position of that element dynamic? Not centered, right? We've changed, we've played off the axis, right? Okay? The word tension can be substituted for contrast. Alright? Understand that shapes can be more aggressive or have more tension than others, right? Pointy shapes probably give a more sense of a feeling of danger than round or square shapes. Right? Okay? Alright? Colors can be more aggressive. Right? Same types of imagery. Alright? We've got one that's red and one that's white. The red's more aggressive, right? And then placement. Color and placement, alright? Which of these two elements within this frame, what do you think is the dominant element?
The circle.
I love that he answers for all of y'all, but I need to get some answers from the rest of you. Alright, look at this.
Teachers, please pardon this quick interruption. The virtual meet is about to start, so if you wanted to log in and see the guest speaker with your class, please go ahead and do so at this time. Thanks and have a good day.
Alright, let's look at it this way. This here, what is the background frame? Is it this, this, or this? This, or this? The white. Alright, what's the middle ground? The black bar, because it looks like it's behind the red circle, right? And then our foreground is red and dominant, right? Okay? Alright. In this one, the placement makes what more dominant? The black, right? It's kind of white, red is now the middle ground, and black is the foreground. Right? And it seems like, you know, it's on top of, it's dominating that red circle. Okay? Proportional systems controlling the what? Eye movement. Thank you. Try to make it more interesting. Alright? Stimulate your thoughts. Proportional system controlling the eye movement within the frame based on a system of relationships that are based on sound compositional control rules, right? Alright? That's an awfully big sentence. Proportional systems. Controlling the eye movement, alright? So we know that we're going to be learning how to use certain systems. Okay? Within the frame, right? Whether that frame is static or dynamic. Okay? Alright? Based on the systems of relationship. There's going to be either size relationship or placement relationships or color relationships. Alright? Based on sound compositional control rules. Alright? One of the rules is rule of thirds. That's where you take your frame and you tic-tac-toe it. You break it up into 3 columns and 3 rows. And where they intersect is where you want to keep your focal points or keep your areas of interest within your design. This is especially important for cinematography. Alright? You could have musical logic. Alright? You could have a bunch of different notes. Alright? Or you could have a rhythm. Boing, 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 boing. Okay? Or you can have it bouncing. Now I'm not good at getting real high in my voice, but I'm gonna try. Okay? Alright? So this would be like boing, boing, ha, boing, ha, boing. Alright? I go to great lengths to educate y'all. Okay? And then there's the golden ratio. Alright? And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail, maybe either later on or in your advanced class. Alright? And if you don't know about Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio, then you don't know nothing about human body. Because we're all, there's certain ratios, like, I think there's certain ratios like the distance of your thumb is like your nose, and distance from your forearm matches certain other body parts identical. Okay? Alright? It's really, it gets really spooky on how accurately Fibonacci numbers or the golden ratio can determine proportions. So why do we do all these things? Why do we worry about where we place things and space and placement and shapes, and why do we do these things? Because we're trying to add meaning to the composition. If you're not adding to the story, you're taking away from the story. All right? If you're not adding to the composition, you're taking away from the composition. A famous preacher once said, I can shorten up my sermons, but I get too lazy. All right? It's not what you first put in there, it's what you end up taking out and leaving, where the work goes. All right? So, just by shape, right, we can create a feeling of intimidation. Big old black box, little old black box. All right? The size, the placement is intimidating. Okay? We can create conflict. All right? Now let's just say this is the Brunswick High quarterback. And this is the defensive line for the Red Terrors. Kind of puts him in a dangerous position, doesn't it? Okay. All right. But boy, let me tell you, what you don't want to see is one of those parts get out of the way and that Brunswick High guy go in for a touchdown. Okay? All right. Technology. Now, I don't know if you realize that's a circuit board. All right. But since I'm drawing like this, that's the best I can do. And then we kind of create some protection with our layout, right? Here's all these sharp points, and then you've got this barrier, and it's protecting our little circle right there. All right? So I'm adding meaning just by the shapes, where I place them, the colors that I use. We understand words because we've been taught to understand words. You've probably never been taught how to communicate or add meaning just by placing certain things in a certain sequence, using a certain color. All right? That's why you're in this class. All right? Anybody have any questions? All right. I want to see a show of hands of students that have completely done the Post-it book.